Alright guys, so because I'm no longer running a marketing agency, I thought I would distill every single golden nugget of value, of Klaviyo value, of email marketing value that I have learned over the past few years doing email marketing for brands. So this is all of the secrets. I'm not going to hold anything back because I don't need to anymore, right? I don't run a marketing agency. I'm not scared of people using my tactics or anything like that. So you're going to get every single thing. Get ready because this channel is about to be insanely useful for anyone who wants to learn any part of Klaviyo. So today I want to talk about an advanced Klaviyo tactic that I've not seen anyone really talk about. And the reason for that is it's because it's not sexy, it doesn't get you clicks and subscribers and clients. And because I do not want clients, I do want clicks and subscribers, but I don't want clients. So I am going to show you this because it is going to help you massively when you try to improve your email deliverability, especially when it's gone down due to some minor mistake of yours, right? What I want to talk about is Klaviyo spam traps and Klaviyo bounce rates, right? Not just Klaviyo, email spam traps and email bounce rates, because this stuff is really affecting your deliverability, right? So basically a spam trap is when you don't really need to know much about a spam trap, but basically these are not real emails. They have been set up by people so that you send emails to them and they can identify you, and then email providers like Gmail and Yahoo and people like them will mark your emails as spam because you are sending to these spam traps, which are not real people. They don't open your emails and you're just sending to them for no reason, right? So because of this, you need to exclude them from your list, otherwise your email deliverability will at some point go down because of it, or you can bring your deliverability up by excluding these people, or quote unquote people. So the way you exclude spam traps, first of all, people will tell you that you need to have double opt-in enabled in your brand. Do not do that, okay? Do not enable double opt-in for any reason. Maybe you're one of those brands that do need double opt-in, but most brands don't actually need double opt-in. But all of these tutorials online will tell you to use double opt-in. Don't do that, because even though it is going to reduce the number of spam traps and bad emails that you have in your list, it's also going to keep out a lot of good subscribers from your list. But if you don't know what double opt-in is, it's basically someone has to, first of all, they have to sign up on the little pop-up form on your website, right? This is, let's just say they put their email in here, then they get an actual email over here, and then they have to click this little button, then they get taken to your website, and probably not even your website, just they get taken to a random Klaviyo page, and then it says subscribe, whatever, right? Your subscription has been confirmed, right? But this is cool because you're losing people here and you're also losing people here, right? You don't want to add an additional place where people can be lost in your funnel, right? So don't use double opt-in, right? So now that that's out of the way, we'll move to the meat of this issue, which is how to actually prevent and exclude spam traps. Now, to do this, you are going to have to use segments. And Klaviyo already removes suspicious emails from your email list. So basically people that Klaviyo suspects are going to be spam traps or are not real emails or just kind of suspicious emails that they've seen on other accounts, they're going to remove some of those emails, but you're still going to have some spam traps remaining in your email list. You want to remove them. And the way you want to do this is because spam traps cannot make any human actions. They cannot open an email, they can't click an email, they can't go to your website, they can't see a product, they can't start checkout. Maybe in the future they might get smarter and be able to do that, but right now they cannot do that. So the easiest way to exclude these spam traps is literally to make a Klaviyo segment where it says what someone has or has not done, and then person has opened email 0 times overall time. Person has, and you want to make sure it's and not or. So, and person has clicked email 0 times overall time, and person has active on site 0 time overall time. This is when, they have visited your website 0 times, right? Person has started checkout 0 times overall time. Person has viewed product 0 times overall time. Person has added to cart 0 times overall time, right? They can't do human actions. So all of these things will make sure that people who are spam traps are excluded. Now, what is also important here is to make sure that they have received some emails, right? So if they've received enough emails for you and they still haven't done any human actions, you can probably be sure that that is a spam trap or just an extremely inactive email, which you're not going to lose too much by excluding anyway. So what you're going to do here is just make that segment and then put it in the exclusions part of all of your campaigns, and that way you can exclude all of the spam traps from your email list. Now, something else I also want to mention, I guess I'll mention it in the next one. So the next one is bounce rates, right? A lot of your emails will be bouncing, and you want to make sure that the amount of bounced emails is very low, right? The rate of emails that are being bounced out of the number of emails that you're sending is very low. And the reason you want to do this is because Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, everyone is monitoring how many people are marking your emails as spam, how many people are bouncing your emails, I suppose that's what it's called, things like that. And by the way, if you don't know what a bounced email is, it's basically just you try to send an email to someone and that email doesn't actually reach them. Something happens in between, whether the server blocks you or your content is not good enough, or that email literally doesn't exist, and so this email does not reach to the person that you're trying to send, and that's what is called a bounce in email marketing. So a bounced email, you want to make sure to exclude. Well, so what happens, right, is Klaviyo completely unsubscribes anyone who has a hard bounce. And a hard bounce is basically usually just happens when an email doesn't exist. So when an email doesn't exist and you hard bounce the first time, Klaviyo removes them entirely from your list, right? This is good because that's what you want it to do. You don't want it to send to an email that doesn't exist, right? But there's also soft bounces, and soft bounces are basically emails that they do exist and you can send to them, but for some reason or another, you can't send to them, they don't get your emails sometimes. Now, if an email bounces as a soft bounce 7 times in a row, Klaviyo will remove those people from your list as well. But usually that's not really how it works, right? Sometimes an email bounces, sometimes it doesn't, and there will be people who will bounce all of your emails, soft bounce all of your emails, some of your emails, and then none of your emails, right? And people in between, right? So you want to make sure you exclude the people who are bouncing a lot, but they did not bounce 7 times, and so Klaviyo did not remove them, right? So if they did not bounce 7 times in a row, that is. And so you want to make a segment for this, which is called at least Klaviyo calls it a chronic soft bounce segment. And this segment is basically going to remove everyone who is chronically soft bouncing but has not bounced 7 times in a row, right? And so, but before we get to that segment definition, I also want to show you how you can actually see where those soft bounces are and how you can actually see how many emails are actually bouncing, and just to see that and why they're bouncing, by the way. And to see that, number one, you can go into the campaign or flow metrics. So basically in the campaign metrics tab, it's going to show you how many emails are bouncing, what your bounce rate is and things like that. It's also going to show which emails are bouncing, but you're not really going to get any good information from that. But you are going to get your bounce rate, and this is where you should be in order to kind of monitor the performance of your campaigns, not only by individual campaigns, but how is the campaign performance as a whole, and in terms of the bounce rates, because you want your average bounce rate across all of the campaigns to be a very low number. Now, in order to actually see your bounce rates properly, and this is super useful, and I don't think most people don't really know about this, but Klaviyo has a thing called a deliverability hub. And in the deliverability hub, there is a section for the bounce details. And in this section, you can basically see how many of your emails are bouncing and why they're bouncing, right? You're going to see the actual reason for the emails bouncing. Now, bounced emails have different reasons for bouncing, right? There are reasons like the email content might be bad, or the domain policy bad, like the domain itself is blocking your emails from being sent to their customers. Sometimes the bounce just occurs for random reasons that are not in your control, but sometimes they are, right? Like email content, domains, things like that. You want to make sure that your bounce rate is low. So let's just say you go to the bounce details page and you realize that when you look at all of the individual people who are bouncing, you realize that most of them are coming from a specific domain. This is what's going to happen a lot of the times. It's like not all domains are bouncing, but some domains are bouncing a lot more than others. Usually it's like 2 domains or 1 domain or sometimes more, but some domains are bouncing a lot more than the others. And you want to make sure that you make a chronic soft bounce segment at least for these domains, if not all of your domains, right? All of your email receivers, right? So the way you do this is basically you create a segment where a person has bounced email at least X times, right? You just pick a number, right? Like maybe like 4 times or 5 times over the last 90 days. And they have received at least maybe like 10, 11, 12 or more emails in the last 90 days. So that's like at least half of their emails are actually like bouncing. That person is not receiving half your emails, and they're hurting your deliverability by being on your list. And so you probably want to exclude that person. Now, maybe you want to make sure that they've never placed an order. You might want to add that to the segment as well. And the way you would, if you want to exclude specific domains only, if you want to exclude bounces from specific domains, then what you want to do is add another part of the segment where it says person's email contains a certain domain, whatever your domain is. Let's just say Hotmail is bouncing a lot and you just want to exclude Hotmail bounces, then you just write person's email contains hotmail.com, or just say Hotmail, because it could be hotmail.com, hotmail.co.uk, depending on how many Hotmail domains are bouncing, right? So that's how you'd create a chronic soft bounce segment, and you would exclude them from your campaigns, right? So there are 3 other ways that I know of that you can use to decrease your bounce rates, both hard bounce rates and soft bounce rates. Number 1 is obviously to only send to engaged subscribers. I see a lot of people are sending to all of the subscribers, and this is definitely it's gonna increase all of your rates, unsubscribe rates, bounce rates, spam rates, right? You name it, it's gonna increase that. It's gonna decrease your open rates and click rates eventually. So you wanna only send to your engaged subscribers, right? And you also wanna only send to, and I also have seen online some people saying that if you send emails regularly at a regular cadence, meaning you don't send sporadically, then your reputation amongst email service providers is going to be higher. And I don't know how much I agree with that. I don't know if that really matters, but it might. And it generally is good practice to send emails at a regular cadence so that people know when they're going to receive your emails, and you're also not sending too many emails too suddenly. So definitely have a regular cadence either way, but that is something you want to keep in mind. The third thing is to make sure that your subject lines are not spammy, right? Not just subject lines, but email content, things like that in general. But like the subject line matters a lot because it's what people see first. But basically, you don't want to use spam words in your subject lines. You can try it out. A lot of times I have tried it out, and most of the times it has worked, but there was one time it didn't. But yeah, just make sure not to use like all caps subject lines. It's not the end of the world. A lot of times it's just gonna work, even with spam words and capital letters and things like that. A lot of capital letters, it's still gonna work, but you just don't want to do that too much. And usually you just don't want to do that anymore, because these people like Yahoo, Google, everyone's getting so much more strict with email deliverability that those things are riskier than before. So those are the ways to prevent your bounce rates from getting too high. And I also told you how to prevent your spam traps from getting too high. Now, there is a caveat to all of this, is that it's a lot of work and it's a lot of exclusions, right? And do you really need to do this? And my answer honestly is twofold. Now, if your email deliverability is low, then yes, definitely you need to do this. There's no reason not to do this. Like, it's just another measure you're taking to make sure your email deliverability is higher. But if you're already following the best practices and your email deliverability seems fine, do you really need to do this? Not really. I mean, your deliverability is fine, so evidently you don't need to do this. But I would say still do it as a preventative measure, because you don't really know when your deliverability is going to go down. When it does go down, you're going to lose a lot of revenue because people are not going to be receiving your emails. And better safe than sorry, I guess. But yeah, I would say every brand should implement spam trap and soft bounce segments. Actually, one more thing I forgot to mention is the sunset unengaged flow. A lot of people know about this flow, but some people don't. So if you don't, basically the sunset unengaged flow is for people who have not opened your emails in a very long time. So let's say someone hasn't opened your emails. Let's just say they've received 10 emails and opened 0, or they've received 20 emails and opened 0, and they haven't opened any emails in like the last, I don't know, like 120 days or 180 days, whatever it might be. Then you definitely want to make some sort of sunset unengaged flow for this person. you want to make sure that the segment is very tight. The segment definition is very tight. For a lot of brands, the definition that I just said is not going to be tight enough. You want to create a segment and then see how many people that segment actually includes, and then see if you want to decrease that number, so that then you make the segment definition tighter by increasing the number of days that it takes for someone to get into the segment and the number of emails they must have received before getting into the segment. But then you create your sensor unengaged flow. You basically, the flow is basically, you send them emails that are very likely to get high open rates, right? So this might be a plain text email without a link. This might be just a normal email that, you know, has a very clickbaity subject line. This might be an email with a huge discount, whatever it might be. Get them to open the email. You don't even need to get them to click the email. You just want to know that they're a real person that's on your list. If they're not, then it's a very good practice to unsubscribe that person from your list itself, or just mark them as an exclusion, right? A sunset unengaged exclusion. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys liked it. There is gonna be a lot more stuff coming in the future, so be tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.